To modern eyes, it seems almost unbelievable that a single spice could become one of the world's most valuable commodities. Yet in medieval and early modern Europe, nutmeg was far more than a cooking ingredient. It flavored the tables of the wealthy, appeared in medicinal remedies, and symbolized luxury and status. Physicians influenced by humoral medicine believed it could help treat various ailments, while merchants recognized that scarcity made it immensely profitable. The secret behind its value wasn't magic, it was geography. Nutmeg trees grew naturally only in the Banda Islands. Every sack of nutmeg sold in distant markets had begun its journey on these small volcanic islands. As demand grew across Europe and beyond, merchants were willing to sail halfway around the world for direct access to the source. Whoever controlled Banda wouldn't simply control a spice. They could influence its price, its supply, and the fortunes of those who traded it. Where extraordinary profits existed, competition was never far behind. European powers soon arrived in Southeast Asia, hoping to bypass existing trade networks and purchase spices directly from their source. The Portuguese were among the first Europeans to enter the region, but they would not remain the only competitors for long. In 1599, Dutch ships reached the Banda Islands and encountered a thriving trading community. Rather than finding an isolated frontier, they discovered experienced merchants who had traded with Asian partners for generations. Only a few years later, in 1602, the Dutch Republic chartered the Dutch East India Company, better known as the VOC. Unlike an ordinary business, the VOC received remarkable powers from the state. It could negotiate treaties, build forts, maintain armies, and wage war in pursuit of commercial interests. Its goal was simple: secure an exclusive monopoly over the nutmeg trade. That ambition brought the Dutch into conflict not only with the English East India Company, but also with Bandanese leaders who preferred open trade with multiple partners. Negotiation gradually gave way to intimidation. Intimidation gave way to military force. The struggle over nutmeg was no longer just about commerce. It had become a contest for absolute control. The conflict reached its turning point in 1621 under the leadership of Jan Pieterszoon Cohen, one of the most influential and controversial governors-general in the history of the VOC. Determined to eliminate resistance and secure complete control of nutmeg production, the company launched a campaign against the Banda Islands. The consequences were devastating. Historical records describe mass killings, deportations, and the destruction of Bandanese political autonomy. Many islanders were displaced while others fled or were forced from their homes. In the years that followed, the Dutch reorganized the islands into plantation estates worked by imported and coerced labor. The exact number of people who died remains debated among historians, and scholars continue to discuss how best to characterize the events of 1621. But there is broad agreement on one point: the campaign transformed Banda forever. A trading society that had prospered through regional commerce was replaced by a tightly controlled colonial economy built around monopoly. For the VOC, the strategy appeared successful. By controlling production at its source, the company could limit supply, keep prices high, and strengthen its position in global trade. But the cost was measured not only in profit, but also in the lives, communities, and traditions that had once defined the islands. Even after the Dutch tightened their grip on Banda, one small island continued to challenge their monopoly. Run Island, known historically as Run, remained strategically important because it also produced nutmeg. English representatives, including East India Company officer Nathaniel Courthope, sought to maintain an English foothold there despite Dutch pressure. The rivalry eventually became part of a much larger conflict between the Dutch and English. In 1667, the Treaty of Breda helped bring that conflict to an end. Among its many provisions, the Dutch retained control of Run, while the English secured recognition of their control over Manhattan. Over time, this diplomatic settlement became popularly remembered as a trade of Run for Manhattan. While the phrase captures the imagination, the reality was more complex. The treaty resolved a broader imperial conflict, and both territories carried different strategic value to each side. Even so, it remains one of history's most remarkable reminders that a tiny island in Indonesia became connected to the future of one of the world's greatest cities. Today, the Banda Islands are quiet once again. Nutmeg still grows beneath the shadow of volcanic peaks. Colonial forts overlook peaceful harbors, and local communities continue traditions that have survived centuries of change. Yet the legacy of Banda reaches far beyond these islands. The struggle for Nutmeg demonstrated how commerce, military power, and political ambition could merge into something entirely new, a corporation capable of acting like a state. Long before the modern age of multinational companies and global supply chains, the Banda Islands revealed both the opportunities and the dangers of monopolizing resources that the world desperately wanted. A spice that now sits unnoticed on supermarket shelves once inspired voyages across oceans, reshaped societies, and influenced the rise of global empire. Sometimes history's greatest turning points don't begin in the world's largest capitals. Sometimes they begin on the smallest islands. Every ingredient has a story, and some have changed the course of history in ways few people imagine. If you enjoyed uncovering the hidden history behind the Nutmeg War, subscribe to Culinary Lore for more cinematic documentaries exploring the forgotten stories behind the foods, spices, and culinary traditions that shaped our world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.